Hello and welcome to Knights of the Game Table. I'm Kevin, this is REA. We're here at Pat's Games in Austin, Texas. Tonight we're playing standard Magic the Gathering. We've got Sarah Lynn with her zombie black beatdown deck, taking on Aaron with his Turbo Fog Infinite Turns combo. Who's going to win? Watch the episode and find out.
To keep up to date with everything at Knights of the Game Table, all you have to do is click subscribe and then hit that tiny little notification button next to it, so every time we upload a new video, YouTube will be sure to let you know.
And while you're watching, don't forget that we're giving away a booster box every month. All you have to do to be entered into the draw is to share this video and then comment down below and let us know. And while you're doing that, we're going to check out the decks. And it's the moment everyone tunes in for rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could just leave it there. I love myself some rock,
It's
paper, scissors.
Scissors, lizards on the right, and
I believe that's a rock lobster.
on the left. Okay, so that's Aaron going first on the left there.
Yes. I believe that's correct. Yeah, we've got Aaron and Sarah Lynn today, two really good players, and we're going to be featuring a really interesting deck that can at times be frustrating to play against because it's a deck that takes, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 turns in a row.
What? Sounds like great fun for the person piloting the deck.
Yeah, so this is a standard deck that uses Nexus of Fate, which is a 7-mana, we would call it Time Walk for those of us who've been playing for a while. And basically it uses Teferi and a lot of fog effects, cards that say your opponent can't deal combat damage to get you to that point of the game, where you get to cast Nexus a lot.
Alright then, so Turbo Time Walk.
Turbo Fog, Turbo Time Walk, all kinds of different ways you could say it. And then on the right we have a bunch of swamps and zombies. So this is a zombies tribal deck. It is a pretty actually aggressive deck. It's got multiple different ways with Death Baron as a new one from M19 to kind of like pump up your small zombies. Okay. And it's just looking to swarm you and eat your brains.
Tell me about this Death Baron.
Death Baron is a 3-mana 2/2 from, so reprint, it's an M19, and it gives all your skeletons and zombies +1/+1 and Death Touch, but I don't believe we're featuring any skeletons in this particular deck. Just zombies. Okay, but there were some skeletons in the limited environment where once in a while you had a skeleton around, but in this particular deck it's just a zombie lord.
Okay, cool. And what tools does the black deck have to fight the infinite turn taking over here? Well,
first and foremost, it's just a very fast deck, and so it really puts a lot of pressure on early. It's going to force Aaron to have a number of fog effects, of prevent damage effects in order to just survive. And second of all, it does have some really good ways of interacting with the actual combo itself. It has, first of all, Duress in the sideboard, which is going to be real important in our next game. And then in the main deck, it has Vraska's Contempt, which can exile a Planeswalker. Pretty much this deck on the left, it needs to have Teferi in play to do its thing. And it's pretty handy that the mono black deck has 4 copies of a card that exiles a Planeswalker.
Nice. Vraska's Contempt, how much mana is that?
It's 2 black and 2, and it exiles a creature or Planeswalker, and you gain 2 life. And it's an instant as well.
Alright, so getting warmed up for the beatdown on the right, and we're a bit slow to make land on the left here.
Yeah, it looks like we're missing a land drop here, which is obviously not where you want to be, but I think that maybe, I would assume at least, that Aaron probably has a number of fogs in his hand, or at least 1 or 2, because I don't see, No,
6.
Okay.
4, 5, 6, yeah.
Right, so here we see a Lord of the Accursed, which is also another Lord, which makes zombies larger. And so that card is pumping up Graveyard Marshal to make it into a 4/3, which means we're already attacking for quite a bit here. We're attacking for 6 already.
Okay, we're down to 10 on the.
Yeah, we hit for 3, and then we hit for 3, and then we hit for 6. So I believe we're at 11. If math checks out, is that right? Or
11? I know. Is he?
Yeah. Are you at 10 or 11, sir?
I'm at 10.
You're at 10. I thought it was 3 and then 6.
I was 4 and then 6.
4 and then 6, I'm sorry.
4 and then 6, okay.
No problem.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it was 4 and then 6 because we played that Lord of the Accursed pre-comp. And we were able to get an additional +1/+1. And now we're following up with some creatures that are not zombies.
What are they?
They're Scrap Heap Scroungers. They're just really, efficiently costed cards that have a black activated ability, so even though our deck isn't zombies, they're not zombies, they're still in our zombie deck.
What is their ability relevant at all?
They can exile a creature in a graveyard to come back from the graveyard. So they are in some ways sort of an honorary zombie. They can rise from the dead. But but they do not get the benefit of, for example, Lord of the Accursed.
Okay, and that's a fog effect then?
Yes, so there we see Root Snare, the first of our many fogs, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt. So Aaron was at 10, and now Aaron is still at 10.
Okay.
No changes. We see all these sideways creatures and no change.
And what's this enchantment on the right?
So this is a Search for Escanta that he's got going on. So that allows you to, it's almost like a scry, if you know that ability. And you look at your top card and your upkeep, and you're able to put it into your graveyard if you like. So that is helpful because if there's a card you really, really don't want to draw, such as, for example, in this situation where Aaron really just wants to draw a land, he can put these non-lands into his graveyard, and then he won't have to draw.
Okay, and it's search for
Escanta. Yeah.
Escanta.
Yes.
What happens if he finds Escanta? Does he have
If
to
he
stop?
finds Escanta, he gets to flip it over, and the second half of the card does something a little different.
Ooh.
But why don't we see if that'll come up in the game, and we'll get to that.
Are there Escantas in this deck?
No, I think that Escanta's a place, and I think that is the card that's flavor is to find it.
Okay.
It's sort of like a El Dorado or something like that. Like a lost secret land. Here, okay, so here we go. So here we see it. The Search for Escanta flips into Escanta the Sunken Ruin, which is a land that also, for 3 mana, you can tap it. You can find an instant or sorcery in your top 4 cards and put it in your hand, which is pretty handy when you're trying to find a bunch of prevent damage effects.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Escanta the Sunken Ruin, more of an Atlantis than an El Dorado.
I guess that's true, yeah, like an Atlantis type of a deal. Yeah, I think he was in the pirate set, so they got all kinds of sea-based mythology there. Okay, here we go. Once again, Sarah Lynn attempting to attack, and we see Aaron activating Escanta in response, trying to find one of his many fog effects, which he does with Haze of Pollen.
Okay.
Yeah, so the haze happened, so we were at 10, now we're still at 10.
For those of you who have not visited Austin, Texas, where we're filming, Haze of Pollen is incredibly appropriate. We're the allergies capital of the world here.
Yes, Haze of Pollen is definitely what I go through for about 7 months out of the year, so that is a very accurate statement.
No combat damage is ever dealt in Austin.
Sometimes I feel like I can't accomplish much with the haze. So here we see another attack. Oh, and now we see better than, you know what's better than fog?
Wrath of God?
Yeah, better than fog would be Settle the Wreckage, which is going to exile all of this stuff, which is going to be great with those Scrap Heap Scroungers, which could have returned from the graveyard from exile, though they're just gone forever. And now Sarah's going to have some very exciting, really pretty looking swamps on her side of the table.
Those are gorgeous swamps.
That unfortunately are unable to attack her. Or do anything other than perhaps tap for the 17th black mana that she probably doesn't not looking for.
She's got a lot of cards in hand, so I imagine she's wisely held back on...
Yeah. Well, it is tricky when you play against this kind of a deck, though, right? Because it's like a fog deck. So if you hang on to too many creatures because you're afraid of a board wipe like Wrath Effect, then like maybe you give them an extra turn to start fogging. Like it's kind of difficult, right?
Yeah, it is tricky.
But there is the aforementioned Death Baron. He's the gentleman with the giant kind of green thing next to him.
Is that an ear trumpet for the Death Baron?
Is it what?
An ear trumpet for the Death Baron.
I don't know what he's got going on. I think he's got some kind of a whip or something and some kind of a green thing. But he likes zombies a lot and he makes them bigger.
Okay.
Does not affect himself though. So we're looking at a 4/3 Graveyard Marshal and a 2/2 Death Baron.
Okay. So this is a non-fatal attack.
Yeah, so it's a non-lethal attack. So this is an interesting situation for Aaron because without with the attack not actually being lethal, even if he has a fog, he doesn't really even need to use it, does he? No. So he could even just like wait. Now that being said, I mean, there's some reasons to cast the fog. For example, like if he just has quite a few, maybe you just fire one off just because you have so many. But it's not necessarily even something that has to happen.
I'll take it.
Okay, yeah. So he's choosing to take it, which I think I would do in that spot.
Yeah.
Save the fog for the non-lethal. But you know what? Maybe post board that might change when your opponent has duress.
Yeah. Are there any direct damage effects that the black deck could
Nope.
deploy here?
Nope, not really. It's mostly just creatures and attacking. So their best way to fight this kind of infinite turn situation is going to be simply by typically using either of those 2 key cards we talked about, either Vraska's Contempt or Duress, to kind of poke a hole in the strategy, get in just enough damage, and finish Aaron off before he can start doing all of his shenanigans.
Okay.
Okay, so he's passing the turn with a lot of mana, which for this deck is a great thing to be doing. It means that your deck's functioning pretty well if you have this much mana and you're still alive.
And you can keep impulsing every turn now with that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Conto the Sunken Ruin's going to give him pretty much a never-ending stream of card advantage at this point. And seeing as his deck is like 80% fogs, there's a very good chance he's going to find a few. Alright, so now we're seeing him actually use the Haze of Pal on here just to keep himself at 3. Like we said, the black deck doesn't really have a way to get you past 3 here, so no trouble there. He's going to pick up a Root Snare, which is again just another kind of can't deal damage effect, and we're going to see if he can find Teferi and start chaining turns.
Okay.
Let's see here. Ooh, we don't see Teferi, but we see another powerful and very cool planeswalker, Nissa, Steward of Elements. Have you seen this one before?
I've not come across the Steward of Elements.
Oh, this is a cool planeswalker. It has a X in its mana cost, so it has it's X in blue-green, and it comes in with X counters on it, equal to the number that you pay, and then it can either scry, or it can play a creature that is on top of your deck, but that's going to be less relevant in a deck that has 0 creatures. So that part of it probably not gonna be significant. Yeah. But what is very significant is that it will be scrying 2 every single turn from here on out, which is gonna be pretty difficult for the opponent. Now it also has a minus ability to make 2 of your lands into 5/5s, which might actually come up because if Aaron can take like a few different turns in a row and use that ability twice. 2 5/5s attacking twice is 20 damage.
Quite a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, that's enough. That'll be enough. So here's Nissa scrying 2. It looks like he's finding, again, more fog effects as well as a cycling land. It seems like the land probably can go, but the question is, do you want to keep another fog or not? Obviously, the fogs are really good at keeping Aaron alive, but at the same time, we are really looking for Teferi at this point. That's really the card we want. Ooh, the Vraska's Contempt, so we did see it there. Okay. Vraska taking out Nissa, and that's really good. That's really good for Saralyn being able to use one of her removal spells in game 1 for some value against a deck that plays 0 creatures.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got potential lethal attack here, presumably.
Yes. So
fog in hand would have been so.
Yeah. So you would think, oh, that's a lot of damage coming in, but as we know, Aaron has been kind of sculpting his hand, using Search for Iskanta, drawing cards, and at this point he's got several ways to sort of prevent Saralyn from taking over and getting through those last few points. However, when I'm looking at his hand here, I do see a number of fogs, but what I do not see is a copy of Teferi, which would be really a significant part of the game here. He also has not 1, not 2, but 3 Nexus of Fates. So
Nexus of Fates.
Yes, which is the time walk extra turn. So he could take a turn here. He could take another turn if he wants to. But I feel like he maybe want to wait till he has say enough lands to activate the Iskanta and take the turn, perhaps.
Yeah. Otherwise, he's just cycling the card. Basically.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's pretty much like 7 mana draw card, which it's not necessarily that bad, but.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Root Snare again. So here we go. A lot of
damage.
Preventing damage. Yeah. And this is where it does get a little bit tough for this black deck when you were starting to chain a series of these fog effects in a row. That's where we get problematic stuff.
Yeah, with the impulse every single turn, it's looking like it's going to be a while.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Aaron is debating what to take, which is when you're the opponent, it's never a good sign because that means there's multiple good things in there.
Yeah.
So he has to decide what does he want here. Well, let's see what he decides to go with, because he does have enough mana to be able to cast a fog here to survive. But at the same time, if he can start making these Nexus of Fates happen, he's probably in really good shape. And it's just a matter of how do I kind of do this in a manner that allows me to maximize my potential to win.
Yeah, just to get more out of each Nexus of Fate than just casting it.
Yeah, well, once we have Teferi in play, we're drawing 2 cards a turn instead of 1. Then our extra turns become very, very good. All right, so he will take Teferi, and
that thing can take.
Yes, yeah. I can take a non-creature permanent.
Yes. Gotcha. Wow.
He can take non-creature permanent. So he picks up that Teferi, and now I think what we're going to see is we're going to main phase that Teferi, We're going to activate its ability to draw a card, and then in our end step, we're going to untap 2 lands.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, Teferi plus Fog is really what this deck is all about. Where you have this extremely powerful Planeswalker that we've actually seen in some other decks that we've covered. But in those other decks, he was much more vulnerable. Where you tap out for him, and sure you can untap 2, but like you couldn't like ensure his survival. But when you're casting Fog, I mean, how are you gonna kill Teferi? Like,
with Vraska's Contempt, apparently.
Yes. All right. Good. All right. I wanted to, let's make it a little tougher on Aaron, right?
Yeah.
You've been casting all these Fogs and doing your thing, but like let's just make you work for it just a little more.
Sure.
Right. So that's great. So Sarah Lynn did have the Vraska's Contempt.
Yeah.
So she's gonna get to line up another attack here, and she's gonna put Aaron to the test. Do you have another Fog? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, he's activating, trying to find something, anything. No, oh, okay.
No Fogs?
Nope, we ran out of Fogs.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that was unexpected. I thought
it
was
was unexpected. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Aaron.
Kind of surprised that we ran out of Fogs there, but I guess he had to cast one every single turn for like a really long time.
That's true. That's true.
And based on that, this is pretty much probably your best way to beat this deck, isn't it? You make him run out of Fogs.
Fair enough.
Well, Sarah Lynn also had some helpful answers in the Vraska's Contempt. She had 2 of them for both Planeswalkers that Aaron tried to deploy. So she did actually kind of like mess with his game plan enough that he wasn't actually operating on all cylinders.
For sure. And now she gets even more disruption, right?
Yeah. She's got, I believe, 4 copies of Duress and 1 Doomfall, and that's quite a bit, especially because Duress is just a great turn 1 play and a great top deck in the late game in this situation. So
yeah, that's true.
It's just going to be a card that's going to be extremely, extremely strong. However, it is a little annoying that if you Duress a Nexus of Fate, it still goes back into their deck. Because Nexus of Fate says that if we're going to go into your graveyard, I believe it just goes back into your deck. Is that right? Yeah.
That seems unreasonably good.
Yeah. So the problem is that you can Duress the Nexus, but it's still there. Like it doesn't go to the graveyard or anything. Ugh. So it's like pretty annoying, really. If you're
still, out of the hand has a certain value as well.
I mean, if you would ask me if I prefer my opponent's Time Walk be in their hand or somewhere in their deck, I would prefer
somewhere in their deck. For sure.
prefer the deck. But it will be an effective way to, again, like we kind of saw in that game, Sarah Lynn, just being able to deploy those Vraska's Contempts, it was just kind of enough to just kind of like pretty much take Aaron off of his like optimal game plan, which was to use a Planeswalker every turn and to use his extra turns with a Planeswalker in play.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we're gonna have Aaron going first again. Have you ever played a deck that took a lot of turns in a row?
Have I ever played? I don't think I've played a deck that took a lot of turns in a row. I played against Turboland in the old extended formats about 15 years ago, and that had like Horn of Greed and actual time. What was the Tempest Time Warp card? Time Warp.
Time Warp, yeah.
Time Warp, Warp. So I played against that a little bit.
Yeah, there was that Time Warp deck, and then I think the last time I can remember in Standard having one like this, there was a deck that played Time Warp with Pyromancer's Ascension, which doubles like all your spells, and that deck could like double multiple Time Warps.
That one I missed.
And you could take like 4 or 5 or 6 turns in a row, which was a lot.
I also remember Odyssey Block Constructed. We had Mirari's Wake, and we were doubling Cunning Wishes. I don't even know if it works like that anymore. I think it might
I don't know
double,
if it, yeah.
Double a Cunning Wish, and you would get back the flashback Fog. And do that over and over again till you eventually
Moment's Peace?
Moment's Peace,
yeah. Still a Pauper All-Star Moment's Peace. Still getting played to this day in Pauper. If you don't know what it is, it's very similar to the Fogs that Aaron has, except in this deck, except you can flash it back, so it's like 2 Fogs.
Cost twice, yeah.
Alright, looks like Cyril's taking a mulligan, which honestly, when you're in this kind of matchup where you're really looking for a fast clock coupled with Duress specifically, you may actually want to take sometimes a mulligan to find one of those cards. I'm not sure if that's what she's doing or if she just simply had like a land light hand, but in this kind of matchup, Duress is so important that I could see even like finding a reasonable hand that just doesn't have the disruption, maybe even tossing it back for like the disruptive hand.
For sure. Also, like you have to have pressure. Like, if you don't have any pressure, in your starting hand, they're just going to have too much time.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want like 3 duress and 4 land, but you also don't want like 4 creatures and 3 land. You want like you want a mix. You want maybe like a few creatures plus a duress, and that's probably almost the best hand I think in this matchup.
Okay, we've got turn 1 beastie over there. What's that?
Yes, that guy is Dread Wanderer, and he's just a 2/1 zombie. He comes into play tapped, and he can occasionally come back from the graveyard. In this particular matchup, probably not going to happen that much, but hey, you never know. he can come back. I do love the fact that with zombies, they have this flavor where a lot of them come back from the graveyard, which is just I love that. I love that they design the cards that way, where zombies care about graveyards.
That's cool. Yeah, you go back far enough, you had to pay, what, 3 mana for a 2/2 scathe zombies with no abilities. that was your lot for a zombie.
Yep.
Things have come on.
Yeah, they've done a really good job. Zombies, like you said, literally from Alpha, one of the oldest tribes in Magic, and still a relevant tribe in Standard, which I think is a really cool piece of continuity for those of us who have been playing for a while.
Absolutely. Okay, it seems like a really good start. If there's any disruption to back this up, then, you know, this pressure seems like as good as a start gets. 11 life already?
Yeah, that's that would be Death Baron. So we have the Dread Wanderer and Graveyard Marshal are both, pumped up by the Death Baron. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to see perhaps all 3 of them come in. Now Aaron is representing the mana for Settle the Wreckage, which we saw last game was a bit tough. So she might want to think about attacking with perhaps not the Lord, not the Death Baron, but the other 2, perhaps. Then again, maybe you just send everybody, because it's tough, right? Are you going to play around the Fog, or are you going to play around... the Settle the Wreckage?
It probably depends on your ability to recover from a settle, maybe.
I feel like if it's me, I think I would not send in Lord. I would send in the others, and that way the Lord's like static ability would stick around, even if the other 2 decided to kind of take a vacation.
I can see the argument for that for sure.
It's 5. Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, so it looks like Aaron is going to take that damage. He's not afraid of these brain-eating zombies.
Yeah. Now he's at a point where it's very difficult for him to do anything other than continually defend himself, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he is going to be
facing-
put to the test now to have a number of fogs for quite some time.
He's facing fate on the board.
Well, but I think I spy in his hand a copy of Teferi as well as a fog. So that is going to be a fantastic finish to this, where he goes Teferi, draw a card, untap 2 lands, and then the fog is going to keep him alive.
That is as good as it gets. Are we going to see a contempt from Sarah Lynn?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think a Vraska's contempt would be nice here. It wouldn't. Ooh, duress. I like that.
I do have a duress.
That is quite good. So maybe we see a fog in response. Maybe not.
Maybe he has. Does he have multiple fogs?
He does. Yeah, he has 2 fogs. Okay. So in having 2 fogs, it doesn't really matter if you fire it off in response or if you wait. It looks like actually Aaron did have a copy of Settle the Wreckage in his hand that he chose not to deploy last turn.
And Sarah Lynn chose not to take.
Yeah, well, she took one of the fogs.
Yeah.
Because I think in her mind she's just thinking like, I may actually need to try to get at Teferi at some point. And the Settle, if I know about it, I can kind of play around it by not attacking with everybody. But the fogs like basically make Teferi immortal, to where he can just never ever anything can happen to that guy.
Yeah, I can see that.
At the same time, like if she just has lethal attacks, she should probably just attack the player.
Oh yeah.
But we all kind of know what's going on here. The fog. Yeah, some are going to Teferi, some are going to Aaron, but it doesn't matter because they're all fogged up by this root snare. So no harm, no foul.
So now, Aaron does have to leave mana open now, but he does have Teferi to help with that.
Yes, so now he has Teferi. So now if he has Nexus of Fate, he actually, even though he only has 5 lands, he actually does have 7 mana. Because he uses Teferi's ability to draw a card. And then in your end step, you get to untap 2 lands. And what you can do is with that trigger of the untap on the stack, you can tap 2 lands for mana and then untap them.
Stack it, float it.
Exactly. So this is a very old school.
Oh, here we go.
Using your mana pool effectively. And are we going to see it? Yeah, Nexus of Fate. Okay. We're going to shuffle it back in, and now we're going to see, will Aaron take one more turn, or will he take 30 more turns.
That's easy in a position to start taking 30.
Well, the way it goes...
You have to draw quite a while, I think.
Well, he has to see a lot of cards is the thing, because he has Teferi to draw an additional card, so he has his draw step. He gets Teferi, and I believe he also has a Charter Course in his hand, which will draw 2 cards as well. So he's going to get to look at quite a few more cards to find additional fogs or additional time walks. So let's see what happens. So he pluses Teferi first, so he's going to get to draw a card. And then now I believe he has Charter Course, which he can cast, and then even still cast an additional time walk.
Okay.
So Charter Course is just a draw 2, discard 1. If you had a creature that attacked, you wouldn't have to discard, but again, this deck is incapable of ever attacking.
Well, unless it converts a land with Nissa, which would be
that's true.
quite a complicated series.
Yeah, it's unlikely. I don't think you're needing to cast Charter Course if you're attacking them with a Nissa lands.
Probably not. It's a little hard when you want to work your cards, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter yet.
Okay, so here we see the same thing. Oh, hooray! Nexus of Fate again.
There we go.
This isn't frustrating for your opponent at all.
Shuffling it up.
No, Sarah Lynn enjoys sitting here waiting. Yeah, she's putting the hand down. She's like, well, alright.
It did prove to be a surprisingly effective strategy last game. Just wait until he runs out of fogs. It did happen.
It's true, it is true. While this deck does play a number of fogs, I mean, at some point, there isn't an infinite number of fogs. There might be an infinite number of turns, but it does take a number of the fogs to get to that.
Just goes to show you should never really give up while there's still a game going on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're playing against a deck, especially one like this, like a Turbo Fog or a very slow control deck, where sometimes it feels like they have an answer to everything. They actually don't. They have a finite number of answers. So that's a really good point that you're making there.
Sooner or later,
yeah,
we all run out of time.
Eventually, there's one little creature that sneaks past the last removal spell and can sometimes get in that last point that you need. All right, well, Aaron's still sitting at 6. He's taken a number of extra turns, but I'm not certain.
This one. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not certain how he is going to be able to continue here, given that I don't know if he has any more fogs.
Gone to get a land.
Yeah, so that's Spring to Mind. It's a 3 mana, we call it like old school, like Rampant Growth. It's a 3 mana, put a tapped land into play, and then from the back, half of it from your graveyard is a draw 2.
Okay.
So he's putting that in the graveyard mostly, so that way he'll be able to draw 2 soon. It would be what I would think.
So we've got 4 mana open.
4 mana open, which ominously suggests Settle the Wreckage.
Well, Sarah's seen the Settle with her previous
Yes.
choice. Another
Yes.
choice would be.
Oh,
my
wow.
goodness! That's going to
Wow.
take the Settle and leave him with.
He basically
nothing.
has an irrigated farmland he can cycle to try to find a 2 mana fog.
Ugh.
And then if Aaron doesn't find this fog, then zombies win the
It's going
day.
to be all over. Okay, come on.
Oh man.
Super awkward. 36 though.
Oh, this is so
I
exciting.
have to. Doesn't, because I have to, if you do find a fog.
Yeah, so Sarah was thinking about, she's like, well, I mean, I see you can cycle a card. Your top card could be a fog.
Yeah. He can't cycle into a Settle the Wreckage there, can
No, he
So
cannot,
There's no
because-
threat to her creatures.
Yeah, so I
doesn't
think
have the
we're all getting in there.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Here's a big cycle.
What have we?
All right, we're gonna cycle irrigated farmland.
Biggest
Did we
cycle
find a
of
fog?
them.
No, we did
Oh
not.
my goodness.
Alright,
Oh.
game.
Wow.
We're all close.
Well, today the simplest path to victory was the best.
Yeah, we're all set to talk about this confusing, complicated, infinite turn situation, and then Sarah Lynn Zombies just turn sideways.
Ate Aaron's brains, literally.
Yeah. So it saved us a little bit of breath. It was the zombies turning sideways.
Just that
Brains.
little bit of disruption as well was enough to push it over the edge, and I think that's indicative of what can make or break a beatdown deck in some formats. It's just being able to throw a couple of spanners in the works.
Yeah, in game 1 we saw the 2 Vraska's Contempts come down perfectly to deal with the 2 Planeswalkers Aaron tried to play, and then in game 2 we saw Duress come down and snag a fog at a perfect moment.
Yep. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, let us know what you thought. You can join us in our Facebook discussion group, Game Talk for Gamers, and we'll see you next time on Knights at the Game Table.